Welcome to That's Church. My sister Emmy and I are on a mission to open our hearts and minds by attending different churches here in Utah. We're talking to the beautiful people that make their church a community.
We recently posted something on our Instagram page and asked people what religion they were interested in learning about most, and Islam was by far the most. People are extremely interested in learning about Islam. And I will say, we probably knew the least about Islam. And so we've been really excited and a little bit nervous about this one because we just didn't know really what to expect. And it was really great to be able to attend a service and then also to learn so much from that meeting. It was amazing. I really enjoyed it so much. It was really great.
Good.
We are so grateful to have Imam Shuaib Din with us from the Islamic community. We recently attended an event called Meet the Muslims at the Utah Islamic Center that was absolutely beautiful, and we learned so much great information. He is leader of his congregation, and we're just so grateful for him being willing to share such great information with us. So tell us briefly, just to start off, what is an imam? What is the title imam?
In Arabic means the guy in front. So because in prayer I am in front of everyone's behind me in rows, that's why they call the guy in front the imam. From there you can denote that there is no religious hierarchy in Islam.
Oh,
so
okay.
The guy in the back row with a tattoo and a piercing, and a purple mohawk, he might be more closer to God than I am. Okay.
Love that.
But that doesn't mean it's just a wild west and it's a free for all. There is, academia, there are scholars, and the Quran does instruct the people that ask the people of knowledge if you do not know. So yes, we do not have a religious hierarchy, but religious in the sense of a spiritual hierarchy. Everyone has a direct connection with God, his own unique connection with God. But we do have academia and scholars and world-renowned scholars, and people are to refer to them.
Okay, interesting. So is there an imam? I'm guessing then there's an imam at each mosque?
Yes, ideally, there should be at least one imam for each mosque. There doesn't have to be. Any adult male can lead the prayer when it's time for congregational prayer 5 times a day, but it's just convenient to pay someone to be there 5 times a day to lead the prayer.
I would imagine that takes up a lot of your time as well, so that makes sense.
Yes,
Yeah.
I joke that everyone has to be at work on time once a day. I have to be on time 5 times a day.
That's so
Wow.
true. Yeah, that's so
And
true.
you're at the mosque for all of those prayers every day? I was under the assumption it was only on Fridays that you were there at the mosque.
Fridays are holy day. That's when we draw the maximum number of congregants. Around 800 people come to the mosque on Friday. We have 3 different Friday prayer sessions, 3 sermons, to accommodate the 800 people. But yes, I'm there 5 times a day.
Wow.
That's amazing. And is it a paid position? Do you mind me asking?
Yes, it is a paid position.
It would have to
that
be,
I live only 2 minutes away from the mosque.
I would imagine it would have to be paid with the amount of time that you're there.
Yeah, one of the visitors at the event that I went to asked about there being a prophet. So I know Muhammad is the last prophet that you believe in, and then there is no leader or no prophet that's over Islam as a whole. Is that correct? There are people that are educated and people that you look up to and that you seek guidance from, but there's not actually like a president or a prophet currently. Is that right?
No, there's no one single individual.
Okay.
As
I
I
love
said,
that. I
there's
love,
a body of scholars. There's a body of academia scholars, uh, but there's no one single individual that we would say has authority or is infallible. No.
I love that. Sounds very democratic and very like no one person can have all the powers.
It's sometimes it's disorganized. One person said after I gave a lecture, he was really fiery and he said, "I hate organized religion." I'm like, you should join us. We're the most disorganized.
Oh, that's so great. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
that's
So
funny.
we know that there might be some common misconceptions around Islam. So we were wondering if you could dispel some of those misconceptions for us.
Well, I'm sure it's no shock to any of your listeners that probably the two most common myths that need to be debunked is that Islam is a violent religion, or there's something inherent in the Quran that promotes violence, and that brings with it, the title or the topic of jihad. And then the second misconception is the treatment of women in Islam. Well, honestly, there's no religion that is violent or peaceful. It's the people who are violent or peaceful, right? So you can have a peace-loving Buddhist monk, right? Should I say the right or the wrong circumstances, he could become violent, right? You can have a violent Muslim, but he might become peaceful. It depends on the circumstances. Has nothing to do with religion or text or scripture, for that matter. People are violent or people are peaceful. The second issue is treatment of women in Islam. If you were a fly on a wall in a Muslim household, you would probably see that it is the woman who is truly the queen of the house. She is pampered by every family member, and she's pampered at every age, from a daughter to a wife to a mother, and even more so when she is a grandmother. Then she is the absolute head of the household. All her children and grandchildren will not literally bow down, but they will all, respect her in that way.
Honor her.
And her word is law, for the whole extended family. So yes, I would say that's just a myth. But that doesn't mean women are not mistreated. There are domestic violence cases in Afghanistan. There's domestic violance in America.
Right. And within many religions.
Someone might argue, in any religion, right? According to a Times article, the most dangerous place for an American woman is her home.
Wow.
So yes, I'm not saying there's no domestic violence in the Middle East. There is, but that's the case with every country, I believe. But sometimes we get the bad PR, So those domestic violence cases are highlighted or put out in the front in the media. People think, oh, that's how every person probably behaves with his wife.
There are definitely extremists in every religion as well. And I think that's what people see within our religion. There are there's polygamy, and there's some, there are things within the media as well that are highlighted that are not necessarily indicative of the entire religion or the entire group of people, but there just are extremists in every religion and every community. So
I also think that we all have our, that's not to negate the history or dismiss it, but I think all religions, or most, have some dark history, and that should not be ignored, but it should be viewed. And then what do you do with that history moving forward? How do you better your community and your religion with that history in mind?
I will say, when we attended a service a couple weeks ago, and it was so intriguing. We really loved the prayers. We love any kind of rituals and things like that. It's just really interesting and really beautiful. At first, I thought, oh, with the partitions for the women, standing behind the men in a different room, I thought, oh, do we feel kind of segregated in this situation? I don't know. And then when I went to the Meet the Muslims,
Yeah.
that was quickly dispelled by the women. And they said, actually, the reason for that is because women are kind of in a vulnerable situation when they're praying, and they don't want men behind them, or they don't want men among them, kind of feeling a little insecure. And so they just want to feel comfortable in their own space. And so, and they very much dispelled all of that, and like their headdresses and all of that were very much their choices. And I really left that day feeling like it is just such a beautiful religion. And I came home and told my husband, I'm converting. I just think it's really very rich culture and a really beautiful community.
It's like if you're doing yoga, in a yoga studio, right, with other people, a female might be very conscious of who is behind her, right?
Right.
In that. So yes, when we are putting our nose and forehead on the ground, right, that is the ultimate posture of humility in front of God, and showing your nothingness in front of the one who is, everything, the all-powerful, the almighty. Then yes, that is a very vulnerable position. Correct.
During the visit, we learned about the 5 pillars of Islam, and you did such a great job at explaining all of that, and your humor was so fun, and it was really great. Can you kind of give us a rundown of that?
The 5 pillars is like the basics of what every Muslim is required to do in terms of practice. One is to profess your faith, which is to say verbally, I believe, I testify, I give testimony of faith in one God, and I believe that Prophet Muhammad is his messenger. The second is to pray 5 times a day, and those can be prayed anywhere. But if you choose to pray in congregation, then we have a set time for those prayers, and you get extra, should I say, brownie points, extra good deeds if you pray in congregation. People usually come for the last prayer, the 7:30 prayer, because that's when they're off of work. So you will have, for the daily prayers, the maximum number of people in the evening. And then these prayers, there's a window of time for each of these prayers. So you don't have to pray like now. You can pray, you have anywhere between an hour and a half to 3-4 hours for each of these prayers. And they're based on the timing of the sun. So the first prayer is before sunrise. We pray that at the mosque currently at 6:30 a.m. And the second prayer of the day is at 2 o'clock. Third prayer of the day is at 3:30. The fourth prayer is the sunset prayer, which I think today is 5:02 p.m. And the last prayer of the day is about an hour and a half after sunset.
And I just wanted to clarify. So there's an hour and a half to 3-hour window, but the prayer itself is a short period of time. Is that right?
Yes. It should not take more than 4 or 5 minutes for each of these prayers.
Okay.
I love that.
When you say the word prayer to a Muslim, he's thinking about these 5 ritual prayers, right? The 5 daily prayers. These are they have a set format. Muslims all over the world pray in the exact same format. They have to be in Arabic, so you are reciting passages that you have memorized from the Quran in Arabic in these prayers. But we have the other type of prayers too, as I mentioned at Meet the Muslims. If you're in a parking lot and you say, God, give me a parking spot, that's a prayer. Right?
I do that a lot.
Right.
I do too.
So that's a prayer. And then we have these little prayers throughout the day, like before you eat, after you're done eating, before you sleep, when you wake up, those prayers.
Okay.
Prayer is
Beautiful.
a big one for me. So I love hearing about, that's one thing about this journey we've been on, is hearing how the different ways each religion prays, because it's something that connects us all. And I think everyone has had a different form of praying, but it all feels like this, it's in the same spirit.
And you pray to Allah.
Right. We are praying to Allah, right? We are bowing towards Mecca, towards northeast from the U.S., but we are praying to the one God, the God of Abraham, the God of Moses, right? The creator of one and all. Yeah.
And Mecca is a city in Saudi Arabia. Is that right?
Yes. It is a city currently in Saudi Arabia. Islam was there long before Saudi Arabia. Islam will be there long after Saudi Arabia.
And is that all 5 pillars? Did we get all of them?
That's the second one. Okay. And the third one is the fasting in the month of Ramadan, which is the 9th month of the lunar calendar. We follow the lunar calendar. So currently we are in the year 1445. So it's 12 months, but each month is either 29 days or 30 days, never 28, never 31. So that means our calendar is 10 days shorter. The lunar calendar is 10 days shorter on average every year from the solar calendar or the Gregorian calendar.
Okay.
Fascinating. I love all the connections to nature. As someone who believes in like great spiritual ties to the universe and all of its powers, like that's very fascinating to me. Yes, it's still very organic or natural. You see the crescent, and that's against the lunar month. You fast from dawn to sunset, and we like it when Ramadan is in the winter months because the days are shorter, right? But it takes about 30, right? It takes about 30 years for it to make a full circle. When if Ramadan is in the winter months, our fast will be like around 11 hours. If Ramadan is in the summer months, the fast would be as long as 17 hours. And you abstain from food and drink and intimacy with your spouse from dawn to sunset. It's a month of concentration, focusing on God and meditation, coming closer, to God and understanding the Quran, our holy text. And this is the one pillar out of 5 that is practiced the most amongst the 2 billion Muslims worldwide. According to a survey, 90% of the Muslims in the world observe fasting in the month of Ramadan. It's a pretty huge number. Can't say the same for any of the other pillars. I can't say the same for the 5 daily prayers, right? That 90% of the Muslims in the world are praying 5 times a day. But we can say with some level of confidence that 90% of the Muslims in the world are fasting in the month of Ramadan. Wow.
And then the fourth is 2.5% of your savings, not of your income, to the poor every year. So if you had this money sitting around for a full year, God says, looks like you really don't need this money, so you need to give it to the poor. Cannot be used to build a hospital or a fancy mosque. It has to go into the hands of those who are most deserving, to fulfill their basic needs. And then the 5th is the pilgrimage to Mecca once in a lifetime for those who can afford it. Right. And that pilgrimage happens. It's a 5-day pilgrimage and happens in the 12th month of the lunar calendar.
And we were going to ask you later about the pilgrimage, but because it's part of this, can you give us a little bit of an idea about the pilgrimage? I know you've been, I think you said 7 times or 8 times.
8 times.
Yeah. Tell us what that entails.
Well, it's definitely a journey. It's once in a lifetime journey in the sense that most people in the world, most Muslims only go for Hajj once in a lifetime. Sometimes they're saving for it their whole entire life, or at least a decade or so. And it is a spiritual journey. It's not like going to, Disneyland or Disney World. It is all about God and making God the center, the focus of your life. It is going to Mecca, where it all began with Abraham and Ishmael, and Ishmael's mother Hagar. So our focus is on this side of the family tree, Ishmael and Hagar, as opposed to Sarah and Isaac, the other side of the family tree of Abraham. We believe Prophet Muhammad is a descendant of Ishmael and Hagar. And that is why the Arabs and the Jews are cousins, because they're from two different sons, right, of the same father. The people of the Jewish faith are from the Isaac, and Isaac's son Jacob, and Jacob's 12 sons make the 12 tribes of the nation of Israel. Well, this side of the family tree, Ishmael and Hagar, what was happening in Mecca, after Abraham left them in Mecca for 3,500 years, there was not a single prophet till Prophet Muhammad came along. So Prophet Muhammad is a direct descendant of Ishmael. So the Hajj, the pilgrimage, is about Abraham and Ishmael. It has almost nothing to do with Prophet Muhammad. When you go there for the 5 days of the pilgrimage, you are performing rituals that mimic and commemorate the life and the life and practice of Abraham and Ishmael and Hagar. For example, Abraham was taking his son Ishmael. We believe it was Ishmael who was about to be sacrificed, whereas in the Jewish and the Christian tradition, it was Isaac who was about to be sacrificed.
Wow, I had no idea.
And
that is fascinating.
No. Right? We say, we say it was Ishmael.
Yeah.
And I guess Ishmael being the firstborn, it would make sense for Ishmael. But anyhow, that's up for debate. We believe it was Ishmael. And on his way, the devil tried to tempt Abraham to not go ahead with this command of God. So Abraham picked up pebbles and threw it at the devil. And guess what every pilgrim has to do? All 4 or 5 million pilgrims have to pick up 7 pebbles and throw it at the exact same spot. We have that spot designated to commemorate what Abraham did.
Wow.
Now it's done in a much more, should I say, modern fashion, in the sense that there are 5 levels for pedestrians. Each level can accommodate 250,000 people at one time. And you have 5 levels, and everyone is throwing pebbles. 4 to 5 million people have to complete this ritual within 4 to 5 hours. Then yes, the logistics you can imagine. So one is the logistical nightmare, but somehow we're able to pull it off.
Wow, the traffic. I just picture the traffic.
Yes, the traffic.
At that time.
The spiritual aspect, apart from the logistical and the rituals, it's very much coming home. The example I give is like if a person has been estranged, has been separated from his mother for 30, 40 years of his life, and then he finally sees his beloved mother, right? What would be the reaction of that individual, coming home, right? Hugging his mom. So it's like coming back to the source of it all.
That's a beautiful thought. That is so fascinating. You said that that the Jewish community are your cousins. I love that. It's a very connecting sentiment.
Especially right now during all that's happening.
Yes, that's why we say we cannot be anti-Semitic, because we are Semitic ourselves. Right?
Right.
Yeah, we're all connected. I totally believe that. And it's just fascinating to see those little tiny differences in each religion. I didn't know that story about Ishmael and Isaac until now. And I mean, none of us were there.
Right.
We're never going to fully know until maybe afterlife.
And something I thought was interesting that you mentioned was that you have different names in Arabic for those people, and you believe in the Old Testament, but you also believe in the New Testament, and then the Quran is an additional scripture. So you believe in Jesus as well. Can you tell us just some of the names of the people from the prophets?
Yes. The Arabic version of the name as it appears in the Quran, and there are many Muslim men who have this name. Adam, right? Your listeners can guess, means Adam. Nuh is Noah, right? Ibrahim, Abraham. Ismail, Ishmael. Ishaq, Isaac. Yaqub, Jacob. Yusuf, Joseph. Musa, Moses. Dawood, David. Sulaiman, Solomon, right? Isa, this throws many people off. Isa is Jesus, right? Isa. I think the Spanish version of Isa is closer. Jesus, right? Isa.
Wow, that was so cool. That was so cool to hear that. I love that. Thank you for sharing that. What is your connection to Jesus within your religion? Do you see him as a prophet or a because I know that Muhammad was the last prophet and the one you guys probably focus on the most, correct?
Join us next week on part 2 as we learn more from Imam Shuaib about the Islamic beliefs in Jesus Christ and their most recent prophet, Muhammad, and more on the Imam's personal beliefs. Rate us on Spotify and review us on Apple Podcasts to help us put our podcast in front of more interested listeners like yourselves. Also, visit us on our Instagram at That's Church Podcast. Thank you so much. We really appreciate your support.
No, we're good. I think we're good. If you can just make me look more handsome somehow.
Dang, we forgot the filters. You look great. It's been great. It's just been an honor to have you here. So thank you again so much.
That's church with Emily and Ashley.